All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Want to make sure our time is used wisely and that we start and end on time today. We appreciate those of you who shared in the chat. I just want to see really quickly as some people are entering the room. Looks like we have folks from California, Massachusetts, Alabama, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, so all over the country. And I'm sure some more folks will be sort of joining us in the next couple of minutes. But we're going to go ahead and dive in. So like I said, today's session is our new user webinar part 1, learning the basics of assessments. I'm the facilitator, Brian Story, and I'll tell you a little bit more about myself in just a second. And I'm actually the director of teacher engagement. So my title has changed a little bit. A few notes on webinar etiquette and Zoom basics. Make sure that you're on mute in the bottom left-hand corner of your Zoom screen. Your video, you can feel free to leave on or put on if you're comfortable, or you can keep it off. And feel free at any point during today's session to post any questions that you have in the chat, and we'll be happy to address those. If you ask any questions that we're going to address later in the session, then we will do so at that time. As just a couple of notes, those of you who register for today's session are going to get a follow-up email with a copy of the slide deck and video recording. And I believe we're actually just going to share the slide deck in the chat today. So Carrie, if you would, just share the attendee deck for folks to take a look at, and y'all can keep that for your reference. This session will be interactive. So if while we're getting started here, if you can go to assessments.org, log in with your Assessments verified teacher account. If you have one, that would be great. If you don't, you'll have a chance to sort of do that later in today's session.
All right, I think it's my turn to share a little bit about the goals for our session today. You'll notice it's the second link. My apologies, I linked the wrong slide deck. So the second slide deck is for today's presentation. And we're on slide number 5 now. So our goals for today is so that you leave this session understanding the basics of how to use assessments and Google Classroom together. We're going to overview what it is, how to create an account, and then how to assign the student experience, and then how to use the data, as well as setting up your students for success as you begin this fall. I'm going to go ahead and let Brian, you introduce yourself first.
Sure. So like I said, I'm Brian Story. I'm the Director of Teacher Engagement here at Assessments. Prior to this work, I was a public school teacher for a decade in Washington, D.C. and Norfolk, Virginia. And I'm a proud graduate of the College of William and Mary and American University. And with that, I'll pass it on to Carrie.
So I'm the new program associate here at Assessments. Prior to this role, I was in the classroom. I actually taught 7th and 8th grade math, so it's exciting to see a lot of 7th and 8th grade math teachers here. I also use the illustrative math curriculum, and I noticed somebody mentioned that earlier. I did about a decade of teaching and in the classroom, have my master's from Northwestern, and when I found Assessments, it completely changed my classroom practice. I'm a huge cheerleader for this platform, and I'm excited to share it with you today.
Excellent. Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah. And so I get to essentially give you a little bit of an overview and the why behind it. Before we kind of talk about the steps, I'm going to talk about like, what is it? So Assessments I found because it's a free formative assessment tool. And so what I loved about it is it saved me so much time as a teacher. It integrates seamlessly with your Google Classroom LMS that you guys are going to be using, and it fosters growth mindset in my students. I think that's where I saw the biggest change when it came to my classroom practice. So why I chose it, or why Assessments, it really just gives students timely feedback. As a teacher, I get data that I can actually use to as like informing my instruction. So I quickly can identify which students need additional support and which students that are ready for challenges. Students loved it because they got to just be independent with it and they were engaged in class. Brian, will you go to the next slide?
Yep. One second. The slide deck appears to have disappeared. Or no, maybe it didn't. There
Oh,
we go.
there it is. Okay. But if you don't believe me, there is actually data that supports this as well. We've been in multiple studies here, and Assessments as a platform has a tier 1 rating. It's one of 3 middle school math interventions when it comes to evidence for ESSA, and it's definitely shown to narrow the achievement gap, which I think is so important as we think about this next fall with students and where they're coming in. As a teacher, honestly, Assessments just makes life easier, which I know we're all looking for. And you don't have to scour the internet because they have a plethora of information, or practice problems there. Students just get immediate feedback and you can make informed decisions from the data. So the typical teacher routine, and this is what I did prior to finding Assessments, was that you would assign, students complete the assignment or the homework, and then grading, and then inform instruction. I don't know about you, but I definitely struggled in the grading portion. That's always where papers got a bit stuck. With Assessments, that routine is a little bit different. So you can assign from the online content library. Students are going to get immediate feedback as they're completing that assignment. And then as a teacher, you get that data report almost instantly as opposed to grading. So you can actually create some actionable steps for your lesson the next day. And so hopefully that's convinced you to want to give it a try. And so Brian's going to kind of walk you through now how to actually do that.
Awesome. Thanks for that wonderful intro, Carrie. So we're just going to talk about creating an account with Google Classroom. For those of you who don't yet have an account, now would be a great time to go to assessments.org, and you can kind of follow along as we go. And so typically most teachers will just be able to log in with their Google Classroom login credential. And that's because teachers typically are authorized as teachers in your school or district's G Suite. If that's not the case, but you have a Google Classroom account set up, we can manually verify you within 24 hours. And you can reach out to us at contact@assessments if you have any questions. When you go to assessments.org, and I'll just go live for a moment to show you what this looks like. You can click sign up. And then on this screen, you can select Google Classroom and enter your Google Classroom credential. And then you can basically go from there. It's going to ask you to authorize Assessments to connect. So with Google Classroom, that's going to look like this, where you click your account and proceed that way. And so now we're going to go ahead and sort of dive into step 1, teachers assigning from our Assessments content library. To sort of go through the journey today, we wanted to sort of couch this in the frame of an actual teacher, right? So James Wilson is a 7th grade math teacher, and he's using Assessments for the first time, like maybe many of you are in the audience today. And so let's consider what he needs to do to get started with Assessments. First, he needs to find content that he wants to assign from the content library. And so we feature a lot of different content. When teachers create Assessments accounts, they have access to our full content library. So there are many things to choose. First thing that sort of is the most common is that teachers will use one of the open education resources to supplement a curriculum they're already using. We have Kendall Hunt Illustrative, Open Up Resources, Engage New York, Eureka, and Utah Middle School Math Project, as well as a variety of curriculum-aligned tools. With our open education resources, this allows you to enhance the curriculum you're using, like I said, and get students feedback immediately as they answer questions and give you quick actionable data in your data report. With our curriculum aligned tools, we have jump math quizzes and tests for grades 3 through 8. We have Eureka fluency supports for grades 6 through 8. And we also have some Eureka aligned diagnostics that were produced through in collaboration with the Louisiana Department of Education. In addition to that, we have our own in-house built content, so skill builders and problem solving sets. Both of these are Common Core lined resources that you can go to anytime if you want to build student fluency, if you want students to get some additional practice without having to search around the internet or graze over worksheets on Pinterest for hours. I know what that life is like. With skill builders, these are standalone practice problems that target a specific skill or standard, and they're mastery based, meaning that students have to get 3 questions correct in a row on their first attempt to demonstrate mastery. Problem solving sets function as sort of our normal problem sets, and so students can kind of get as many tries as they need, and this just gives that extra practice for those students that need it. We also have a variety of release state tests, in particular for Massachusetts and New York. If you want students to get a feel for what those questions look like and kind of get feedback on their answers to prepare for your standardized tests. And so you can also search by curriculum. So we have the folders in the content library where you can select problems to assign. And you can either assign them now or save to my problem sets and select your assign time options. So I'm just going to show what this looks like. And if I go into assessments, I'm going to log in with one of our demo accounts. And when you first log in until August 12th, you'll notice that it takes you into what is ultimately the old version of Assessments, the old look. On the 12th, you'll just be taken straight to our new look. And if you didn't see that, you can go straight to our new look by clicking this blue button and clicking Try Now. And so this is what Assessments will look like outright starting on the 12th, but you can go ahead and use it now if you like. And so when you want to go through and search by curriculum, you can go through our content library here. You can see, again, those open education resources, content sources. You can see the LDOE jump math stuff that we have, our release state tests, as well as that, skill builders and problem solving sets that we mentioned earlier. And so for the purpose of this, I'm just going to show you what it looks like to sort of navigate to some problems and assign. And I'm going to use Open Up as our example. I'm going to go to grade 7, unit 2, and lesson 2. And let's say I don't want to assign this entire problem set. I want to pick a selection of problems. I can uncheck select all. Oh, and before I talk about that, of course, all of the activities that we have for this lesson from Open Up, you can see at the top here, they're tabs. So if you want to assign the practice problems, the student-facing tasks, or the cooldowns, you can access those from the tabs at the top. But I'm going to do some practice problems today. So I'm going to uncheck select all, and then I'm going to navigate to a problem that I'd like to assign. And so let's say I want to choose this one. And I'm going to go ahead and sort of, let's say I don't want to assign it right this moment. I'm going to save to my problem sets. And I'm just going to call this the 802. Oh, 802 demo. Just for our demo today. And I'll save that to a problem set, and I'll come back to that in just a little bit. And so that's what it looks like to navigate through our content library itself. And then in search by standard, you can actually use the search bar at the top above the content library to search for all through our entire content library for problems that align to a specific standard. And then select and save those into a problem set as well. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like to use that tool. And let's say I want to look at, one second there. Let's say I want to look at some 7th grade standards, and I want to look at inequalities. And so what happens is this will load up every single problem in our content library. There are 223 of them aligned to that standard. You can even see that there's a skill builder here if you'd like to assign that. Although those you don't select problems from, you just see the skill builder and decide to assign it or not. But if I go back to these problems, I can filter by curriculum if I want, or I can just browse through and click to select some of these as I like. And just for the purpose of the demo today, I'm going to go over here back to our assignment. Let's say I actually want to add more than just that one problem to that problem set I saved. So I'm going to go back to grade 7, and I want to choose a few more problems from that lesson 2, unit 2. So again, I'll uncheck those. And like I said, I changed my mind. I want to add a few extra problems. So I'm going to navigate down and choose the remaining problems that I want to assign. And then I can click that down arrow again, save to my problem sets, and I can search for the title of the problem set and save it there. And then you can either click View Problem Set or go to My Problems. But I just want to show you what those assign time options look like. So I'll go to view the problem set, and from here you can see that all of those all 3 of those problems and their associated parts are listed here together. And you know what? I'm noticing that that one problem in here, I don't actually want that problem. So let's see here. Or did I save it to the wrong one? Maybe that's what I did. Well, that's okay. So let's say I just want to select a few of these problems. All right. So let's say I just want to select those problems. I don't want to assign them all. So I did that. And now I'll click Assign to Class. And from here, I'll choose my LMS. In this case, for you all, it'll be Google Classroom. And then the first time you do this, you won't have any classes listed. So you'll have the option to import. And you can click Import Classes. And this will allow you to import any classes. You can check as many as you like and import those classes, and they will then appear in this drop down. You'll also notice there that there's a sync button. Anytime there are changes to your roster in Google Classroom, kid switches classes or gets dropped from your class or new kids get added, you can always click to synchronize, and that'll make sure that the data on our end and the reports that you get match the roster of students as they currently exist. So let's say I've got my Google Classroom. I'm going to select our demo class here, and then you have the ability to choose problem order. So from here, you can click linear, which means students will receive the problems in the order that they appear. You can select random, which means students will get a random assignment of the problems you've chosen, or student choice, and that means students will be able to choose which problems to go in the order that they please. You can also set your release and due date as well before you click Assign. So I'm going to click Assign, and it'll tell you that that assignment has been successfully created. So just going back over here. So James teaches with Open Up resources, and so it made the most sense for him to enhance his curriculum with Open Up lesson materials. And so I just want to review for a moment how he's going to assign, just review what we just covered. So again, you can either go to Explore Content on the main page, or you can just log in, and you'll go to Find and Assign. Find the problems that you want and click the down arrow next to the Assign to Class button to save your problem set or add to an existing problem set. You'll see those assign time options where you can modify the assignment name. You can select the problem order you want, select your LMS, Google Classroom in this case, and add those release dates and due dates, and as well as change the problem order if you so desire. All right, so we just want to give folks 3 minutes and try to log into Assessments and see, just explore and and select a set of questions from any source and save those to my problem sets, just to give you a chance to practice that. And I'm going to start a timer. And so in about 3 minutes, we'll come back together, but we really just want to give you all a chance to go in and explore and try to save to my problem sets, just like I showed you. And just as a side note, I did notice that some people have joined us a little bit later. Totally fine. If you have any questions, you can post those in the chat just to make sure you're caught up with us and that you're able to participate in the experience. We're happy to assist you today. We'll be coming back together in about 2 minutes. All right, we have about 1 minute left. And again, if you're going through this process and you have any questions or you're not sure what to do, feel free to let us know. Alrighty, so hopefully we didn't get any questions in the chat, so hopefully all of that's made sense so far. Again, feel free to post any questions you have in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer those as we go through today's session. So you can also assign to subgroups in Google Classroom. So once you've pushed the assignment from assessments into Google Classroom, you can then edit it inside of Google Classroom to make sure that only certain students see it, if you'd like to differentiate, etc. And so I'll just go and show you what that looks like. Once my little Zoom pane goes away because it's blocking me. There we go. All right. And so I like to live in the classwork tab. I'm sure many teachers here like that as well. So if I go to the assignment and I click the triple dot and click edit, I can click this drop down and deselect any students that I don't want to see it, and they will not receive the assignment. One tip on that, if you're going to assign to subgroups, you probably want to set a release date and time so that you're able to do this before just in case any student is constantly checking their Google Classroom so that they don't see the assignment before you remove it. Oh, and then of course, make sure that you click save in the top left-hand corner. Oh, skip to slide. One other important note about Google Classroom is on copy pasting links. You can right click and copy paste any link embedded in your assignment from assessments. If you'd like to combine them into one assignment in Google Classroom, just note that our links are class and roster specific. So you cannot copy a link from one class and paste it into another class. If you do that, students will receive an error message. So make sure that if you copy paste links, that you're only sending those links to the students in the class from which you copy pasted. And now I'll go ahead and pause and see if folks have any questions. So feel free to post any questions, comments, wonderings in the chat, and we'll be happy to address those. It looks like someone didn't see the option to save to my problem set, so I can go back to that for just a moment. And basically, whenever you're in a problem set, you can click to, you can select any problems that you like. And once you've selected problems, you click this down arrow next to assign to class in the bottom right-hand corner. Oh, I should probably just do this from my assignments or find and assign. There we go. So I'll show that with Open Up Grade 6. And again, the different parts of the lesson that we have in our platform, you can navigate through the tabs at the top to reach those pieces. But just for the purpose of showing you this again, click that down arrow and you can click Save to My Problem Sets. Accidentally didn't click it. There we go. And then you can either type a name of an existing problem set to add them to, or you can make a new problem set and create that name here. And then you'll be able to click Save to My Problem Sets, and they will appear right here in My Problems. In here, you can search according to name, ascending or descending. We are going to be adding a folder structure to this tab in the future, but we do not have that in the system just yet. And then I'm just looking at some other questions coming in. Someone mentioned, are we looking at ways to assign to subgroups from assessments in the future? That is something that we're looking into, so I'm glad you brought that up. We would like to make this as seamless and clean and easy to use as possible. And then let's see here. I'm not sure about the retrieval and ready, set, go in the Open Up curriculum. So let's go take a look at that. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about with that. But Ingrid, if you want to reach out to contact@assessments.org, and Carrie, if you wouldn't mind just sharing that in the chat, you can feel free to reach out to us and we can get one of our content experts to answer that question for you. Okay, in the high school curriculum. So we're talking about illustrative. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. So I would just reach out to contact@assessments.org and we'll be happy to help you with that. All right, moving right along. So step 2 is students get immediate feedback as they complete their problems. And so for James, the teacher, he wants to know what his students' experience will look like in assessments so that he can best support positive student culture around the platform. And you as a teacher can always preview the problem set as a student directly from within assessments. So just to show you what this looks like live, I'll go back to my problems and go to our 802 demo. You can click the triple dot here and click preview as a student. And this will take you directly into the student view where you can experience the problems you assigned as the student would see them. And so now we just want to take 3 minutes and give you a chance to try that out with any problem set. As a note, you can also, when you go to find and assign, if you go to a specific problem set, you can click the triple dot here as well, and preview them as a student before you even save it to my problem sets. So either way, go ahead and give it a try, preview problem set as a student, and we'll come back together in about 2.5 minutes. I'm realizing our timer got reset there. So we have about 1 minute left. Again, feel free to share any questions you have in the chat. Carrie's doing a great job of responding to those, and we'll be happy to help. I did want to note, I saw a comment that someone said they're not seeing save to my problem sets as an option. Just to make sure, when you logged in, make sure that you click try our fresh new look in the top right-hand corner so that you can see the option to save to my problem sets. If you're in the old look of assessments, which is going to be taken offline on the 12th, then you won't see that there. So again, when you log in, just make sure that you click try the fresh new look up in the top right hand corner, and you'll be able to see the full functionality that we're going through today. And with that, we'll go ahead and move on. So we wanted to give you a chance to sort of share in the chat now that you've had a chance to see that student experience. What did you notice as you took a look at that? And what do you wonder? And so take a moment, if you want to complete a few of the problems, try that out. And just post any noticings or wonderings that you have as you've done that. And while we're doing that, I'm going to go live, and I'm going to go into the student into a student account and sort of act this out. So as a student, I'll do the same thing that the teacher does in Google, which is click that embedded link. And for the student, it'll take them into their assignment in the student view. And so let's say on this first question, I know the answer. I'm typing that into the response box. I submit the answer. It tells me that I was correct. And you can see my score bar is still at 100%. And I got a green check up here in the top right-hand or left-hand corner, indicating that I got it right on the first try. For this next question, let's say I'm not sure on my first attempt. So I put an incorrect answer. My score bar goes down to 67%, and it tells me that my answer is not correct. But then if I put the correct answer in and submit, I'll get a green X indicating that I got it right on the second or the third try. It'll tell me that I'm correct, and I can move on to the next problem. And on this problem, let's say I'm really struggling and I'm not quite sure what the answer is. So I keep getting feedback that I'm not correct. Notice the score bar goes down with each attempt. So after 3 incorrect attempts, the score is 0, but the student can still input a correct answer. Let's say I go and talk to the teacher and learn what I'm doing here, and I'm able to approach the question and answer correctly. When I submit that correct answer, it tells me I'm correct, and I get a red X indicating I still got the question correct, but I got it correct after 3 attempts. And so then with many of, especially with our open education resources curricula, we have open response questions. And so for these, students can put a typed response. They can also add a link to a website or a video. They can upload a picture by clicking the picture icon and browsing for the picture. It could be a screenshot of their work. Students can also click the square root symbol here to insert math type if they'd like to enter any particular math type. And they can insert a table as well and fill out a table as needed. Just to note, these open response questions are not graded by our system. If you choose to score them and provide a comment on them, then you can do that. And if you choose not to, then these do not affect the student's score on the assignment. And on this last question, let's say I'm really confused, I don't know what to do, and I'm going to click Show Answer. Notice that takes the score bar down to 0. It gives the answer, but when I put the answer in, it gives me this red highlighted X, which indicates that I was unable to move on without getting extra help, and I probably need some additional assistance. And then I'm going to click Finish Assignment. And when I've done that, it's going to take me into my student report, which allows me to see the questions that I was answering, see my individual scores, and any open responses that I left. It'll also show that class average, and if I used any hints, it'll show that as well.
I just wanted to highlight some noticings as well.
Great timing.
That you can show that, like, show answer or the explanation option, so that students aren't necessarily getting stuck. In the student report, you can also see the time that a student spent on the problem, which you can also see as a teacher, which Brian will explain in a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then I think the other one was, making sure, Brian, when we go over the data report, how to import it into Google Classroom.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. So moving right along here. Like I said, the student can access the assignment through the embedded link. The first time they do that, when they click on an assignment for the first time, they'll be prompted to click a button that says create a new account. That's the only thing they have to do. There is no separate login. And then they'll be taken into the tutor, the student tutor, where they can answer their questions and get feedback as they go. They'll see one question at a time, get instant feedback on their answers, and click submit in order to move on. You'll notice that if they make incorrect attempts, their score bar will change, indicating their updated score. And they can also click the show answer button, but that will take their score to 0. And in that student report, they can hover over any of the problems in the first column here to see what they were, see that individual score and class average. And of course, any open responses. And here you can see an open response where the teacher did choose to provide a score and feedback. So you can always have a student go back to that link and see their feedback, and you can have them respond in any way that you choose. I'll go ahead and pause here to see if we have any questions. Any questions coming into the chat right now, Carrie?
I'm checking. I do not see any questions.
All right.
There was a wondering around pre-assessment
Mm-hmm.
and like how you might do that for the beginning like of the year with formative assessment. And so if there's not one in your curriculum, you can always customize a problem set to include like the specific standards, like Brian was showing earlier, where you can search by standards that you might want to check prior to that unit beginning.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we also have a variety of those release state tests from various states that you can use. You can take any of the content that we have in our content library and use that to customize a pre-assessment to suit the needs of you and your students anytime that you like. So now we're going to move on to step 3, teachers analyzing data instead of grading. So just checking in with James, now that he understands the student experience, he needs to learn how to interpret the resulting data he receives from the assessment's assignment report. In the same way that students access their problems, the teacher can access the assignment report from that embedded link in Assessments. Just a note, before August 12th, when you click that, it's going to take you into the outdated version of the report, and you'll have to click Try Our Fresh New Look to see the updated version. However, you can also access the report by going directly to My Assignments and finding the assignment for which you'd like to see the report. Just give that a second to load. So again, any assignment that you've assigned, you can sort them by class, by the status, upcoming release or past due, or even the release date. And you can always, just for the purpose of this live demo, you can see that assignment here. You can click this little paper and pen symbol to view the report, or you can click the drop down and click View Report from here. And you'll notice it also tells you how many students have completed it, number of problems, release and due date, and any standards represented in the problems you assigned. As a note, the report will not have any student data in it until students actually are in a Google Classroom and they click one of our links to start an assignment. So if you see a student whose name doesn't appear in your report, typically that means that they have not clicked one of our assignment links for the first time. And like I said, to access the reports through Assessments instead of Google Classroom, you can go to My Assignments, find the assignment that you want and click View Report, or that pencil and paper icon in the corner. And so now we're going to go live and actually look at one of these assignment reports. So I'm going to click View Report. And so this is going to show us the data from the students that have completed the assignment. The first thing I want to note is that we have these student progress cards at the top. So you can see who's not started, who's in progress, and who's completed. And if you click those, it'll show you the students that are in each bucket. If they're in progress, it'll tell you when they last worked on it. If they've completed it, it'll tell you when they finished it. You can see our performance summary, which will show you the number of students for each question that put correct, correct eventually, or incorrect. And so you can also click the questions. Anywhere you see these question links, you can click those and see the student view of the question and correct answers and score breakdown. You can also expand this and shuffle through questions by clicking next. And then sort of our secret sauce, if you will, is our detailed report. And this detailed report is going to give you whole class and individual student data. You have the ability to see the class average score. You can see average scores across each problem for those whole class interventions. You can see common wrong answers. So if a student answered incorrectly on the first attempt, you can see that. What this means essentially is if more than 3 students answered the same incorrect answer on the first attempt, it'll tell you what that incorrect answer was and the % of incorrect students that put it. You'll also be able to see if they used hints and the amount of time spent. And under that, you'll see each student row that gives you the individual student's average, how they did on each question. You can click any of these ovals and you can see their performance, number of attempts, etc. And if you're curious to know what any of these symbols mean, you can always click the scoring rubric up here to see what they mean. As a note, the X means that a student answered incorrectly for an attempt, and the triangles mean that they used a hint. So again, just going back, our primary assignment report here will show you those progress cards, the performance summary, and the detailed report. In the detailed report, you'll see the individual scores, those common wrong answers, the class score on the whole assignment, individual averages on each problem, and details on the number of attempts in those color ovals. So just moving right along. The other thing you will have noticed is a standards report. And I'm just going to briefly address this. In any data report, you can click standards, and this is going to show you the score breakdown by standards represented in the problem set. This is going to show you for each standard represented how many problems in the set align with that standard, and then the average score for each student on those problems that align with that standard. So for those of you who like standards-based grading or use standards proficiency to drive your instruction, you have easy access to the data in this view as well.
Ryan, before we do that, can you quickly show how to import to Google Classroom? I've received 2 questions and I'm not sure if you showed that yet.
Absolutely.
Sorry if you did.
And we get into a lot more detail about the report data and give you additional practice in that in our new user part 2 session, which I believe we're doing next week. We'll get to the dates on that in just a minute. So definitely feel free to come to our part 2 as well. If you want to upload scores to Google Classroom, you click this triple dot next to the detailed report, and you can click upload to Google Classroom. Note that that'll push the scores to Google in the assignment, but you still have to go and publish those scores. So it gives you a chance to make any edits you want before you publish. You can also download the detailed report as a CSV file if you'd like to view this data offline.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. I just also wanted to address a quick question about deleting assignments. You can delete from Google Classroom. So when you've uploaded the assignment into Google Classroom, you can click on the 3 dots in Google Classroom to delete it. In the assistance platform currently, that is not possible, but that is coming very, very soon.
Excellent, excellent. So yes, you click that triple dot, delete, and your students will no longer be able to see it, and it'll also disappear from your classwork tab and stream from the teacher account.
Okay.
So
now my favorite. Oh.
I'm sorry?
No, I was like, do you want to take this one or can I?
Oh yeah, sure, go right ahead.
Okay, awesome. My favorite part now. I'm going to go ahead and put the spotlight back on me. Okay. So my favorite part here is around the data. So going back to James here, James is going to look at the assignment report and realize there's a plethora of data there that he can use that's actionable. And so where does he focus his time, especially given that a limited amount of time? So there's a couple of ways that we can suggest looking at this data. You can look at the class average and be able to kind of quickly see how did your class do overall on that homework assignment or that practice problem or that class assignment or that exit ticket cool down that you were assigning. You can take a look at the problem average, where you can identify individual problems that you might need to review the next day as a class. So if students are working on this at home and you're looking at the data right before class, you can quickly see, oh, that's a problem I want to look at and go over in class. Common wrong answers are great because they can facilitate your whole class discussion when it comes to misconceptions. So common wrong answers are students' initial responses. And then you can also look at individual scores to kind of pull small groups for reteaching. All right, we're going to have you. Oh, Brian. Okay.
Yep,
Awesome.
and just for the purpose of time, to make sure we end on time, let's keep this to about 1 to 2 minutes instead of 3.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share with everyone right now a screenshot of a data report. And so I'm going to ask you to imagine that this is a snapshot of data from your class. And again, you won't have the same functionality because it is a screenshot as you would in the actual program. But I think it's fun to sort of dive in and analyze, like, what kind of information can you get from this data? So in the chat box, as you look at this data, any questions you might have or steps you might take if this was your class data.
And again, we'll give folks about another minute or so, just so we can stay true to time and end on time. We like to respect folks' time. So make sure that you take a look. And again, please feel free to post any questions that you have or any wonderings. We did have one person in the chat share that it looked like the first student in the report just kind of clicked right through. And so those are the sorts of quick, immediate conclusions you can draw from having our very quick actionable data and without having to grade all of your papers first to see it. So that's really important so that you can address student needs when things are still fresh in their mind. And I'm thinking, let's see here. Just for the purposes of time, Carrie, if we can go ahead and just move on. Of course, my computer is slowing down for a second, so let me wait for it to catch up. There we go. All right, and again, feel free to post any questions in the chat. We'll be happy to address those. All righty.
So I just want to talk a little bit about like how you can set your students up for success when using assessments as a platform. And so James, like you guys now, really understand how beneficial this can be. And so setting up his students for success can be lots of different things that we have resources for. So step one is really trying to make sure that students understand kind of what's going on with the program itself. And we have lots of different tutorials to introduce your students to assessments, as well as, as well as like practice tutorials. So they can actually try this out on a low stakes assignment where they actually get a chance to test out, okay, how does it work when they get incorrect answers? What's kind of the feedback they get? How do they upload an open response question or a photo? So a lot of these tutorials are really helpful for getting students onboarded on the program itself. And then again, as a teacher, just being really consistent with the program and having using it regularly to inform your instructions kind of adds value for students. And it's a formative assessment tool, so really rewarding the multiple attempts that students take and the number of times that they try and spend effort on the assignment and the learning. So Brian, do you want to take the tips for Google Classroom?
Absolutely. So we do have a few tips just for those of you who are here today. We know that you're your Google Classroom users, and I'll just spend a few moments going over these. You can always send comments or email individual students in an assignment via the Student Work tab and clicking that email link. You can also, if you click the assignment under the Instructions tab, you can send a class comment. So if you want to remind students to check your feedback on their open responses and respond in some kind of way that you prefer, you have those options. Feel free to, once you upload or push an assignment to Google Classroom, to embed, to click Edit, as we showed you, and embed any instructional videos or extra directions or guidance that you'd like students to have access to for the assignment. You can even link to one of our student tutorial videos in our user resources if that interests you. And Carrie, if you wouldn't mind, can you share the link to our user resources in the chat? And so now we're going to move on to our wrap up and next steps. So today, just to recap, we showed you how to create an account, how to create an assignment, which is our step 1, step 2, which is that student experience, step 3, which is assessing class performance, and we reviewed some tips and suggestions for getting the best start possible with your students as we glide into the next school year. And at this time, we would love it if you could just take 30 to 60 seconds to respond to our feedback survey. We use this survey data to directly inform how we modify our sessions to best support you and your students. We take all of our feedback to heart and use that to make sure that we provide the best possible experience. And so if you could just take 30 to 60 seconds, Carrie's posting that link in the chat just to do our feedback survey as we wrap up. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Also, the next part of our series in the New User webinars is part 2, a deep dive on data, like I mentioned earlier. You can learn more about and build on the essentials of part 1 and go deeper into how to use our powerful data supports to support student learning. You can also attend that live and register for the next live session, which is going to be on August 10th at 4 p.m. And then you can also watch recordings of these sessions. We don't have the updated recording won't be up until August 10th or 11th, but you can always go to our webinar library to view recordings of various sessions on your own time. All right. We also have a few more sessions coming up a little bit later in September. In September, we have our 5 common implementation challenges and top solutions. That's a 30-minute session. We also have our new user part 3, which is using assessments with success. So really focusing on that routine. Skill builders, which is a 30-minute session, just diving into how you can use skill builders. And then we're really excited about our targeted webinar on October 26th, which is using assessments to address unfinished learning. And if you would, Carrie, just share the link to our webinar sign up in the chat again. You can also go to our website and at the Help Center, access our user resources. You can go to our Teacher Corner to see various teacher artifacts and blog posts. Go to our Blog Center to see, again, various other blog posts, and click Get Involved if you'd like to participate in some of our various activities that in which we engage teachers. You can stay in touch by going to our Facebook user community and signing up. And Carrie, if you would share the link to the Facebook community, thank you. We're also on Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And you can always reach out to us if you have questions at contact@assessments.org. And then just to close out today, based on what you learned today, what is your priority next step for getting started with assessments? We would love to hear from you as we close out. So based on what you learned today, what is your priority next step for getting started with assessments? All right, so someone mentioned that they need to decide how often they want to assign. So definitely a key consideration. As we recommend, start with one piece of your lesson that would really benefit from this immediate feedback and useful data, and set a consistent routine around that and build out from it is usually the best way to go. Uh, Someone else mentioned sharing the webinar recordings with other teachers who are going to be using the platform. So you can definitely do that. And that's great. And as some more responses are coming in, again, you can always reach out to us at contact@assessments.org, and we'll be happy to help you. And then there's one more comment coming in here. Take part 2. So come to our part 2 session on the 10th, and make sure that you're familiar with scoring and assessments. We like to use the word scoring. Yeah, definitely you're welcome to come. And we know that with teachers, it's easy to, find problems in our platform and assign, but sometimes it's hard to get around to analyzing the data. But really our data reports are the most important essential piece of this for teachers. And so we highly recommend that you come and check that part 2 session out on August 10th. And with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to learn more about assessments. Feel free to reach out to us if you have questions, and you'll have a great rest of your Tuesday. Again, thanks so much for joining us.